Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be talking about a certain podcast. If you may or may not have heard of it before, it is called the Impulsive Podcast. Now this features a certain someone I like to shit on a lot and talk a lot about, Logan Paul. Basically Paul Brothers. But in this video, how can one joke collapse an entire podcast? And today, we're going to be looking at another absolute banger from SunnyV2 himself, how one joke collapsed a popular YouTube podcast. Now, all I saw from the description is Bobby from Bad Friends, very popular podcast, probably a lot more popular than Impulsive, decided to go on Impulsive and apparently destroyed their podcast. So let's see how that went. Alright, let's give it a go.
On episode 351 of the Impulsive Podcast, Bobby Lee made one single joke which completely wrecked the relationship between the three hosts Logan, Mike, and most notably George.
He's not coming back? Is he really mad? Is he really mad? Oh, we have beef with a guy? I don't...
Yeah,
no. I didn't do anything wrong!
For context, Logan and Mike created the podcast back in late 2018.
That's always the worst, when you don't know what you've done and people just start getting that. You're like, can you at least tell me why before... Like, I mean, sure, context's about to be explained right here, but it's always nice, just at least a hint, so I could know. It's sometimes best to be like, no, you mustn't know, because it's, but sometimes I get it.
And it's safe to say that these two have always had excellent chemistry. Their personalities work well together, they seem to be pretty good friends, and generally speaking, they exhibit a similar level of status. Keeping a permanent third host, on the other hand,
that love-hate relationship. They love to get hated.
Has proven much more difficult. The first 150 episodes featured a third host named Spencer, who eventually left the podcast to move to Hawaii, after which the role went to Logan's childhood friend Mac, who'd then also leave after getting into a fight with Mike over their difference in interests. On episode 219 in September 2020, the next and most recent third host was announced as George Janko,
Introducing the third co-host of Impulsive, my best friend, George Janko,
who was certainly different to the previous two. George was introduced as a more emotional counterpart to Logan and Mike, as he had a reputation for wearing his heart on his sleeve, while Logan and Mike were almost the exact opposite.
Yeah, if I remember, he'll probably bring it up here, but if I remember correctly, there was a part where Logan Paul, of course, decided to tell him he needs therapy instead of Jesus. And it's like, listen, dude... Don't mess with a man's religion. Come on. Like, be respectful. Best friends. I don't think so.
In addition to this, George was a devout Christian, with discussion about his own spirituality, adding another layer of contrast to what had previously been a non-religious show. Outside of Impulsive, George practiced the art of stand-up comedy, although it'd be through comedy that he'd eventually meet his ruin. One thing was glaringly obvious from George's very first appearance. He simply wasn't on the same level as Logan and Mike. Logan has succeeded with everything from vlogs to Prime.
I guess you could say he succeeded. Most of it goes to the KSI, but KSI succeeded. Logan Paul got lucky. I just love shitting on the dude. This dude fucking sucks.
While Mike has overcome his own set of challenges and has proven himself as a fantastic interviewer who meshes well with almost every guest on the show, George, on the other hand, has always felt a little too much like, well, just another guy who Logan met at the gym.
Logan, I met him at a gym.
George never had the chance to refine his interviewing skills to the same degree as Logan and Mike, which is only accentuated by his seating position to the right of the guest, making it much harder for George to engage in the conversation. The obvious imbalance between George, Logan, Mike, and usually the guest as well, leaves George with a needy personality and an overpowering desire for approval, leading to over-the-top questions and comments, often producing a clunky viewing experience.
I need to know more about you. Like, how did you figure out that, like, this entertainment world was your calling?
that's what I was gonna say.
I said it, so...
But I was gonna say...
No, but I said it.
No, it's good. It's good.
I was already funnier than the kids around me, so I was like, I could tell the joke that they're gonna make fun of me, but even better. And I made it about myself. So I was like making fun of myself, like really self-deprecated myself.
Generally speaking, George's attitude wasn't severe enough to upset any of the guests. However, on episode 346 with Shaquille O'Neal, George was slapped in the face with a bit of a reality check. For the first 11 minutes of the podcast, George didn't say a single word, leading Shaq to confront him about his lack of input.
Hold on, you ain't gonna ask me a question? Oh, damn.
He waits. He likes to wait until he's got.
I fucking love Shaq, dude. This dude is fucking legit. I love this guy. Everything he does is just like, it just makes you smile.
Listen, man, I read the Bible a lot when they talk about David and Goliath. I've never seen a giant, and so like I'm literally just, I'm a little taken.
You've been sitting over here for 30 minutes, and that's all you can freaking say. Fucking kidding me.
Now he's not gonna say
That's the
shit.
question. Jeez.
I'm just sitting. Are
you drunk?
I have one question. Is there
Okay,
any
thank you.
chance I could, for 2 seconds, put these up so I can hear what's going on?
Take them all. You don't have to ask
Why
the
are you asking
producer.
Dylan?
Just take things off.
Okay.
After making the excuse that he couldn't hear due to his headphones, George sat quietly for another 11 minutes, after which he was
He was doing this. And even if something's going on over here, like you can't hear it as well, but you can fucking hear it. Come on, dude. All right, listen.
scolded again.
What the fuck are you doing here? Ask a question. Jeez. He's your partner?
He's the newest.
You might want to give him his 2-week notice. Ask the question, dude.
Honestly.
Jeez.
I couldn't, like, it's all like laughs for them, but I can't imagine George how he feels during that. I'm sure he's about to explain, but God, it's like you're laughing at the time, but it's like, ow.
Jeez. You're just sitting here like a bobblehead going.
Yeah. No,
Ask the
I'm so
question.
sorry. I didn't want to
Okay.
interrupt you because
No,
I
go
couldn't
ahead.
hear, but
Go ahead.
And it's safe to say that this put a permanent
I didn't want to interrupt you because I couldn't hear. But your headphone is still doing this. You're putting it on the back of your ear. You can hear.
dent in George's confidence. He'd already joked about how difficult it was to be the third host in the past.
It's hard to be the third person on a podcast with
wouldn't
two
say.
very vocal main hosts.
And after the Shaquille O'Neal episode, it was obvious that George's confidence had fallen off a cliff.
And then recently I've been just getting really nervous that I'm not doing well enough for the podcast anymore.
Only 5 episodes after Shaq roasted George, Bobby Lee would join the show for Impulsive 351, during which
See, now this all makes sense. But Bobby Lee, I'm sure he didn't know coming in that, he's been dogged on the past, however long. I mean, this is episode 351. I know he hasn't been here the whole time, but they've been doing it for a while.
which one single joke would send the show into turmoil. The episode began with Bobby taking a little jab at George by suggesting that Mike was cooler.
You have everything.
Cool friends.
So you have cool friends like this guy? What about him?
Yet things became a little more contentious when George took it from fun to borderline aggressive.
Some people just don't like sucking dick. Now turn around and know the wisdom I give you.
Whoa.
Before displaying more
Yeah, you don't. Trying to assert dominance. It's like you're sitting there just like, oh yeah, and then you're gonna, lash out. But it's just not as not aggressive, like physical. That's when shit's okay. Now you're taking it too far. But still, trying to assert dominance here.
arrogance just a few minutes later.
How about you?
First of all, what's my name?
Sensing George's clear insecurity,
What are you fucking? God damn it! I didn't watch the show. Not James White, Jesse White. Say my name. Come on.
Bobby began to roast George when he got the opportunity.
You have a girlfriend?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Is that your girlfriend? Without fame, you wouldn't get that.
Although the ultimate roast would come after George went on a 2.5-minute monologue about the struggles he faced in his life.
And I don't mean this in a cocky way, but dude, this put me on a very strong map. And it made a lot of my avenues blow up. So I'm
It's
very
like that's-
blessed, but I didn't know I was gonna be here. So
It's
for
like
me-
that's. You done?
That really doesn't help because if I was in that situation and you were talking to me and you start laughing and looking at them, it's like, okay, you're doing this for their. But at the same time, you're in front of a camera, so everything is for show.
It was just a long monologue.
He was just waiting.
And let me just say something. I loved what you were saying. It was just very long. Yeah,
That's usually me.
yeah.
That's usually.
But I got what you're saying, and you really inspired me, George.
Yeah.
Can I say something?
First of all, don't touch me.
Yeah.
Do not
Okay,
touch
my
me.
bad, my bad.
At this point, dude, start your own podcast. I'm sure that's what he's about to do. I think that's what he's actually done. But at this point, just start your own podcast.
Yeah, we just need writers to edit that down. If we had a staff of writers, they'd be like, yeah, we'll cut that. But
I'm sorry.
essentially, it was a really good monologue.
Usually when I do my comedy, I don't have writers in the room. I I actually write my own stuff.
Okay, I can tell.
But
Don't write my own
we need
stuff.
to get a writer.
Sorry,
But my point
I'll
is,
be right there.
For the rest of the podcast, George went into his own little world, except for when Bobby got his attention just so he could roast him again.
all right, George.
so sad.
What I'm saying is that
better
when
when
you
I
were
was-
talking, we were here for that 30 minutes.
Eventually leading
You know, the smile. Oh god. Yeah. No, it's being laughed at is one thing. It feels like they don't want to make it feel like you're being laughed at, but you are. So
George to walk off the podcast, get in an Uber, and leave without saying goodbye. The episode received comments such as, "It's impossible to call yourself a comedian if you can't handle being slaughtered by other comedians, especially the Captain Bob himself." George tells everyone he's going to be the best comedian alive, but he can't take a joke from the legendary Bobby Lee. It's like a badge of honor. How does he think most comedians communicate with each other?
That is
I've
true.
always thought George thinks he's funnier than he really is. And when people roast him, he gets super butthurt like this generation. Things became worse for George after this video by Jamari gained well over 1 million views, leading George to address the criticism in the following episode of Impulsive by arrogantly stating that he enjoyed all the hatred.
I love that people.
I'm sorry. When you start hanging around these people, I'm gonna say these people, Logan and Jake Paul, and now KSI, you get this love for hate, and it's not good, because that hate is still hate. Like,
Were just commenting and getting so steamed. It made me realize, like, oh, I really don't care. I want it. I want to be in their heads more. Like, I like it.
Love how George is trying to act like he's not heard about this when he had to leave the pod because Bobby Lee, out of all people, almost made him cry. Dude is a clown. A week after George responded, Logan appeared on Bobby Lee's podcast Tiger Belly, where Bobby took a moment to talk about George's behavior.
What he did was unprofessional.
Yeah.
I was a guest.
Yeah.
He walked out on a guest.
Yeah.
If this guy right here walked out on a guest, he would be reprimanded.
Before roasting him yet again.
If you had walked out, right, it would have been like, oh, it's over. But him walking out was just kind of like, let's keep going.
Bobby and Logan then decided that they should get George on a call,
Can you give me his number?
You want to settle this right now?
Yeah, I'm gonna call him right now.
leading Bobby and George to fix their relationship.
I want to apologize for my behavior on your podcast.
Bobby Lee, you shut your mouth. I'm apologizing to you. I left you. You were our guest.
I want to pull back my apology then. Because I too.
Good laughs.
Because I literally did not feel sorry.
Ow.
I pulled out of the apology. I don't feel sorry, but I will accept yours, right? And hopefully, you know, when I come back to your podcast, we can make it right.
However, it was obvious that the whole thing had caused a serious fracture between George and Logan, becoming most obvious when they get into an almost hour-long argument, only 5 episodes after the Bobby Lee podcast.
I know people that hate me, that treat me better about my faith than you, and you're my best friend. One that really hurt me is you told me I need a therapist because I believe in you.
see, and that's the problem, is that you get friends like this that love hate, and then when you start getting hate from other people and they're not as bad as your friend that already gets hate, then you realize, oh, you're not that good of a friend. Yeah, because he's the one reason why you're getting all the hate, because it's not monkey see, monkey do, but it rubs off on you. It happens. It happened with KSI. It's happening with you, bud.
That one hurt me.
No, I didn't. I said you need a therapist because Jesus isn't quite doing it for you,
No, you
which
didn't.
is
No, you
which
didn't.
is true.
No, you didn't.
I
And
said
I don't want to stand down. No, you didn't. What do I need a therapist for then?
Jesus isn't doing it for you, and I.
Let me tell you something, Logan. Okay, I'm no Christian. However, I can say Jesus has definitely saved more people than fucking therapy has. Not even close.
What do I need
you're-
a therapist for?
I don't believe you're as emotionally mature as you could be.
I'm not emotionally intelligent. Could you pick a time and frame any day of our
Sure.
life?
Here's one. 3 weeks ago, when you were sitting in that chair, you stormed off this exact podcast because you're upset about something a comedian said.
Logan did
What does that got to do with Jesus? Am I dumb?
apologize in their very next episode together.
My attitude towards you on that episode and my belittlement of your beliefs was not appropriate at all.
However, George seemed to realize that his days on Impulsive were numbered, as he'd create his own podcast before clickbaiting the first episode with the title, Why George Janko is Not on Impulsive, implying that he'd left the group. George used the video to explain that this hadn't really happened.
Obviously, I'm still on Impulsive, guys. For any of you guys that are like, oh, their beef situation, and now he's starting his own like lane.
Even going so far as to say their relationship was as good as ever.
Me, Logan, and Mike are in a perfect place.
Yet it was obvious that this clickbait video had annoyed Logan.
I'm just doing this for a couple weeks so then I could leave and clickbait that why I left Impulsive.
That's good. It's a good strategy.
That'll crush.
It's been done. It's been done many times, and it works.
By who? Oh.
Well, you can make a real living for yourself, you know? We've seen the model.
Resulting in more and more uncomfortable moments on the podcast.
You don't give a shit about this show anymore, let's be honest. It's like bands that hate each other that have to get on stage every night and play for the audience. Like,
You mean like you guys getting on videos and doing like any event?
yo, let's do our hit song. We don't like it. We have to.
Both of y'all, by the way. I see you got both the Paul boys here. Double slaps.
That's not true. That's not true. I like Mike. George,
Well, he's about to.
You don't say.
Only 3 episodes after comparing themselves to a band forced to play together, George disappeared from the show without warning, leading fans to speculate on whether or not he'd been booted. Mike refused to elaborate on the situation when asked by Aiden Ross.
Why is Georgie not on Impulsive anymore? Is that like you don't answer that?
No, I don't want to talk about that.
Although only 1 month later on an episode of Jeff FM with Mike and Tanner Mojo, Tanner accidentally said this.
We are the new Impulsive. I'm sorry.
We are, it's fun.
Y'all are having like a rebrand, like George is leaving. Like, this is it.
At around the same point in time,
George is this is it. I didn't mean to say that, did you?
George unfollowed both Logan and Mike on Instagram, which was followed by Impulsive changing their profile picture from this to this.
Isn't that so funny? You can literally just click, followed, click it, unfollow. Shit goes wild. What the fuck?
As well as their banner from this to this. All of this had happened silently with no input from the hosts. However, on the 26th of April 2023, George would post to Twitter, "I wasn't going to talk, but now I am," implying that some pretty heavy stuff had gone down behind the scenes. Replies on the post encouraged George to keep the drama private, yet on the 31st of May, approximately 1 month later, another tweet was made stating, "To the Impulsive fans, I'm so sorry I can't speak about things, not my choice. I do love you guys, and for those of you sending me the clip of them talking shit, it's all love. I've already moved on from that toxic environment," confirming that he was no longer on the podcast. The post received replies slamming George such as, "Mate, you sat there not speaking for 90% of the time. What are we missing, your silence?" To which he'd respond by stating, "You think I wanted to be quiet, ha ha ha." Yet this kind of statement is represented.
I could see it from that perspective. Like, you don't know when to cut in, especially when there's two chatty like hosts. I can understand that perspective, but other people are seeing it as like you never talked. So I get both sides.
Of why he's unsuitable for the podcast. He cares way too much about how other people view him. If you're the type of person who gets defensive and feels like you always have to be in the right, you're probably better suited to a Facebook comment section and not a career on YouTube. Despite this, George has seen some success with the George Janko show, yet Logan hasn't been able to resist roasting George's low view count.
I love this outlet, and it exists because people watch. And without people watching, I just have a show like
Since then, George has stated that he simply wants to distance himself from Mike and Logan.
I'm at a point right now where I want distance from both of them. I don't want anything to do with it, and I just move on.
Which seems to be the best possible outcome for everybody involved.
Literally everybody. Alright, so that's another absolute banger from SunnyV2. Y'all know we love watching the Jake Paul brothers or the Paul brothers getting shit on down here. That's one of our favorites. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Of course, go to the description down below and watch SunnyV2's video as well. Leave a like and a comment down below and subscribe as well as this video. Like, comment, and subscribe as well. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and have yourselves a wonderful day.